I'm always amazed that anyone would want to go anywhere else because it was just so wonderfully, wonderfully trashy.
Hello, I am Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they created there, and the people that they used to know. This week, I am talking to Amelia, co-host of the podcast Amelia and Pitney's Bitchen Boutique. They may be awful, but they are right. Actually, I'm not really sure if I agree that they are both awful or right, but it's how they describe themselves on their show, so we're just going to go with it for the time being. We are talking all about the Austin club, The Crossing. Now, this is one of those situations where, because the club existed before the internet did, there is no information about this venue online, which is kind of weird considering all of the crap that you can find online. But it's also a nice little reminder of the importance of this project to document people's memories and the spaces where they happened. We talk all about letting go of toxic friends, the flouncing, bouncing, flaccid dick dance of male strippers, and one of my all-time favorite subjects, the universal appeal of scuzzy, grotty, dirty nightclubs.
Wherever the queer people were, that was where I wanted to be. Whether or not I considered myself particularly queer at the time, because I'm like 98% straight anyway. But I'm queer enough that that's just where I wanted to go.
So the 2%, is that like a toe?
It's weird. It's something that it's taken almost my whole life to kind of define. Because when I was younger, I had this theory that, and I recognized that this was me sort of almost like doing an entire anthropological study in my head based entirely on my own experience and never once asking another person a question, but just making an assumption about all of society, about how sexuality worked. I really thought that because in society, American society in particular, that women are so sexualized, like in media and whatever, that, boobs sell everything and that everything is so geared towards women as sex objects. I really thought that I had been conditioned to have a sexual response to women, even though I was straight. It didn't occur to me that it wasn't just this conditioning thing. I just thought I was just being affected by the world around me and that it wasn't something internal. And I just assumed it was everybody, which is a really unscientific way of doing things. And that's not, I have a bachelor's degree in anthropology. You'd think at some point I would have thought that maybe talking to other people would have been a good idea to at least, try to support my hypothesis with some data would have been a good idea.
How would that conversation go? Like, oh, you like her boobs too, right?
Yeah, something. It's like, so like you're not into women, but you still think about them a lot, right? Or I don't know, and it's not like it's something that's like super pervasive, but it's not like it's not there. It's almost like I have an attraction to women in an almost asexual way. Like, I've never gone there because it never occurred to me that it was anything more than just this thought that popped into my head every once in a while. That was a conditioning thing. It never occurred to me to, just see what you think. Even though I was always getting hit on by women. I was always seeing women that I was just like, wow. Never even consider it.
And so when did you go, oh, hang on?
It really wasn't that long ago.
Like, so just before this call then?
Yeah, like about 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, it's only been within the last few years. It's going to sound really weird, but I'm not sure I've actually talked about it to my husband.
Hi, Amelia's husband, if you're listening.
Hi, honey. I'm around somewhere.
What?
I mean, like, it doesn't affect anything because I'm married to him and I'm not going anywhere. But it's one of those things that it's like, huh.
Okay, but so like help me understand this a bit more. So
Yeah.
as someone who is strictly dickly and has never thought about women in that way,
Right.
is it like it's a warm fire in your belly rather than a burning loin?
Yeah, it's not like, it's not romantic. I
Okay.
wouldn't say it's a falling in love feeling. It's like, I can't imagine anything past some good making out. Like, there's certain women that it's just like, okay, I could go there. Okay, I could maybe go there. I can't go there. As I point downward, above the waist. I don't know. Like, I can't. There's like certain things that I can be like, okay, I can go there.
But are you not like breasts are fine, right? But the vagina, like, is so interesting.
Oh, it is. Like, I'm not repulsed by my own.
No, but like they are so different from each other.
Oh my God, yeah, they're fascinating.
You never just like, wow, I want to explore.
They're really, I mean, and a few years ago, I actually became especially fascinated by vaginas because I got really upset towards like the end of 2018. I just kind of got generally upset, probably related to something Gwyneth Paltrow did. I'm guessing probably kicked that off.
Damn you, Gwyneth.
Some days I just want to smack it. And sometimes she'll be like really good in a movie and I'm like, fuck you. It's like, I don't like it when you're a good actress. I don't want to respect you in any way. I just want to be angry with you all the time. Yes! Can't I just hate you? Just full cloth. But so like when women just don't get how their junk works and they just are stupid about it and like they'll just shove stuff up there thinking, oh, I'll just stick parsley in there. I heard that's good for it or whatever.
Wait, what has this got to do with Gwyneth Paltrow?
Well, Gwyneth Paltrow was like the jade egg nonsense and steaming your vagina because she's one of those people. The wellness community crap.
Okay, well, can we just segue quickly to talk about sunning your asshole?
Oh God.
Have you heard about this?
Yes.
I just, like, what? Like, how does it make a difference? I do not get it.
I mean,
So for anyone who's listening who does not know about this, there is a theory that if you expose your asshole to sunshine for 30 seconds...
Yeah.
It's only 30 seconds. It will like change your life, fill you with power and energy.
Like, yeah. I mean, I have been someone who got a horrible, horrible sunburn at a nude beach. Like, there are parts of your body when they see the sun for the first time, they might not react the way you want.
Are you saying you're just like me and you burn in 30 seconds?
I am pale blue. I am absolutely a pale blue person.
I am just veins. Yeah.
I am definitely one of those people that whenever I have to give blood or whatever, like people, they get so excited. They're just like, oh, your veins are great. I'm like, yeah, you can take blood from anywhere on me. Palms of my hands, anywhere you want.
I get that as well. Like, oh, this is easy. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so anywhere you want.
But yeah, so this sunning of an asshole thing, like, do you get it at all?
There's a point to which there's so many people I just want to smack the shit out of them. Like I mean, there's coming up with an idea. There's just, the first person to come up with the idea. Okay, good for you. You know? But then you go do it and you're convinced it did something great. Then you go tell your buddy. And now the next thing you know, you're on the internet posting a picture with your legs in the air. And then now there's like 100 people. Oh yeah,
but that picture that I posted had nothing to do with the sunshine.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the vagina thing was that I got so annoyed by hearing just these crazy stories about women like just harming themselves because they don't understand their own bits at all and just like giving themselves horrible infections or just doing terrible things in the name of wellness or whatever. And I declared 2019 the year of the vagina. And I started doing every segment, every show that year. I did a little short segment about vaginas and vulvas, and whether it's a news story or just, hey, here's something you didn't know about the clitoris or whatever. And I learned things. I mean,
Did you write poetry to the vaginas?
No, but I did at the last segment of the year. I actually I wrote a song. I wrote a little song to the tune of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer about snooches. Yeah.
And okay, so my only follow-up question here is, am I pronouncing clitoris wrong? Should I be saying clitoris?
Oh, I think it's either way.
Or is that an American thing?
I think I pronounce it both ways. I think it just depends on whatever comes out of my mouth at the time.
I mean, I don't bring it up in conversation very often, so I don't really need to worry too much about it, but I just wanted to make sure.
Right.
Anyway, sorry. So let's go then to the crossing. If indeed
yes.
that was the name of the club.
I swear to God it was.
Are you able to tell me about the first time that you went there? Do you remember?
I don't know if I can pinpoint the exact first time, but I do know that when I went there, I'd gone to other gay clubs before, and they were a little more, I don't want to say typical gay clubs.
Clean?
But a little more neon-y, a little more...
Shiny?
A little more sparkly. And, I mean, because I think anything that was a gay bar automatically felt like, ooh, fun. And then it was like, I'd get in there and I might not feel welcome. Like there was a place, I think it may be one of the places that's still around in Austin from back then, called Oil Can Harry's. And there's actually several of them in Texas. I don't know if it's a chain or owned by the same people, but at least the one in Austin, it was the place where like the straight acting gays would go. It was like the respectable gay bar. Mm-hmm. At the time, it was like the gay bar that straight people knew about. Like the rest of them, nobody seemed to be aware of them. It's like, oh, well, of course you don't know about the seedy places, but you know about Oil Can Harry's. But Oil Cans was like the kind of place where I totally get the, hey, this is our place. This isn't for you. I get it. Like I was saying before, I don't necessarily want to be around straight women either, but like a bachelorette party showing up is going to ruin my evening too. I totally get that. And that's the kind of place that like a bachelorette party would think they have the right to go to. Mm-hmm. So if they see me and they don't know me, I get it. It doesn't mean they have the right, because I'm following my friend through the crowd, to casually gesture in such a way that they just sort of lightly burn me with their cigarette as I walk by. Not cool.
No.
But I was young enough and doormatty enough that I just sort of brushed ash off my arm and kept walking. I was not going to be confrontational about that sort of thing. And I think part of it was because I knew that, yeah, this is your place. I mean, eventually I would only go there if, say, because, there would be like amateur strip night. And if like someone we knew was going to strip, and it was like, okay, well, we should at least go cheer for them or something, And the only time I ever had a really positive experience there was I had this 1 year where I was determined I wanted to know what a Brandy Alexander tasted like. And you have to find an old bartender to get one of those. And I would just, every bartender in every bar I went to, I would just find the oldest bartender in the place and ask them if they knew how to make one. And they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. But there was this old queen at Oil Cans who did know how to make one. And wasn't as good as I was hoping. But,
So what is a Brandy Alexander? I need to look this up. And
why
did you have it in your head that you needed one?
It's a very 70s kind of a drink. Maybe a 60s or 70s kind of drink. It's like, I just mainly remember it's got brandy and cream in it.
Cognac.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Those kinds of cocktails just kind of fascinate me a bit. And I'm fascinated by the kind of cocktails that are like, oh, well, this is the kind of thing a woman would drink because it doesn't taste like alcohol. I'm fascinated by, let's combine all these different kinds of alcohol and then it magically turns into something else. Because sometimes that does happen, and that's like, the first time I ever actually kind of got really tipsy in public. The first time I had a Colorado Bulldog and I almost fell off a bar stool. That was at the Crossing.
Colorado Bulldog? Oh, I don't know any of these.
It's kind of like a White Russian. It's very similar to a White Russian.
Okay. Okay, well, that's not what we're here to talk about. Sorry, I'm just
No, I know. We can just talk about mixology.
So then going back to the very top of our conversation, you made this statement that you don't associate with the people that you used to go to this club with.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of
Yeah.
fascinated about this. So Pitney is the one constant in all of this. He was the person that you went to that club with the group of people.
Yeah.
Who were the other people?
Some of them, well, there were people that we met there, so that there was, a lot of it was that. Some of it just has to do with the fact that we just kind of stopped going out as much. Some of it has to do with the fact that Pitney moved away from Austin and moved to San Antonio. Me being an old married lady for a long time, so I had stopped going out. But even before all that, some people that we were hanging around with back then, we got to a point where we realized that we were friends with people who didn't deserve us, if that makes sense. One of the people back then, that was a guy that we actually met at that particular club, and we used to be there with him a lot, was someone that he eventually kind of became a character on our show, and we decided to refer to him only as the worst person in the world.
So how do you feel about him? Do you still like him? You don't like him?
Oh, he is utter human garbage. The first story we ever told about him on the show was that one time he was out at the bar and he ran into a guy that he hadn't seen in a few years. Like when there's someone that you used to see every weekend and then they kind of disappear for a while and then they come back out and they look very, very thin and frail and you haven't seen them in a while. And his reaction to seeing this guy was to tell him he looked like shit. Well, his friend took this guy aside and said, yeah, I'm going to have to ask you to apologize because he's dying. The reason why you haven't seen him in a while is because he has AIDS and he's dying and he felt good enough to come out tonight. And he's really, you're an asshole and maybe you might want to apologize to him. And his response to that was, I'm not going to apologize to him. He does look like shit. And besides, he was a slut and he deserves it. But even more amazing than that, the reason why I know this story, because I was not there. The next morning, he called me to tell me that story. But the way he told me was as if he was proud about it.
Oh, man.
That was amazing. And that was like a moment where, and it made me kind of look back over years of knowing this guy and going, oh my God, he's kind of always been this awful. But it's just these little moments of just sort of letting people get away with things and then realizing like, oh my God, some people really are garbage. And a bunch of us reached the point of, oh my God, fuck that guy, all at the same time. And we actually, a bunch of us called each other because we were all like sort of at different times hearing this story. We had a meeting. We met at a restaurant to discuss how the fuck are we going to get rid of this guy? Because we have like a social circle and he's part of it. And how are we going to remove him if like the four of us just don't want to see him anymore? How are we going to do this?
So this meeting, did you have Post-it notes? Did you have plans? How did you approach this?
It was so hilarious that it was nearly that formal. I mean, we all converged on a restaurant and it was like a couple of hours.
Did you wear black sunglasses going
discussion.
in, hoping no one would see you? Like...
It was like some serious discussion. And we had a lot of discussion about, are we going to confront him? Do we just leave here and we all just drive and just bang on his door and just tell him he's a complete piece of shit and we're not? Or do we just stop answering the phone when he calls? Like, I mean, I got caller ID because this was back when caller ID was an automatic thing. I got caller ID for the purpose of avoiding him, for not answering the phone when he called. So our decision was ultimately to just stop answering the phone when he called, just freeze him out. Because we realized after a long discussion that, I mean, this is going to sound really strange, but I mean, if someone is that bad and he tells that story with pride that us telling him you are a terrible person, he's not going to understand what we're saying. We just realized it was going to be extremely traumatic for us to go through having to have that conversation, and it's not going to do any good. And he's just going to end up convinced that we're just lying to him or something. And then he's just going to go around telling everyone how awful we are, which ultimately he did. He made up all kinds of stories about why we weren't talking to him anymore.
And so it wasn't like this gradual realization. It was just one day the blinkers came off.
Yeah. But then looking back, it was oh my God, he's always been awful. Like there would be these little things that were like tiny annoyances, but we just blow them off. And then going back and going, oh no, he's this bad all the time.
Isn't it fascinating what you put up with when you're younger? Like, I think I might have gone too far the other way, and now I'm just like, ugh, what? You have soy milk with your coffee? No. I'm a bit too extreme. But like, yeah, just back then you're just like, yeah, I'll let that slide. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple years ago, I'm days away from the anniversary of walking away from another long friendship with someone who...
Wait, you don't mark these occasions, do you?
Well, this one just happened to fall in a very... Part of it has to do with Facebook memories, because it reminds me things come up and things just kind of connect. But after a year of this guy like throwing a tantrum and not speaking to me for a year, after like 12 years of a wonderful, perfect friendship, he got really weird with me the year my mother died. Like everything was wonderful. And then one day he just got weird and got mad, and then he didn't speak to me for a year. I went through like a year of horrible depression. Towards the end of it, I'm just like, okay, he's just not going to speak to me again. It's like, it's fine. I'm over it. I'm fine. And then suddenly he just shows up back in my life again. And I immediately reverted to, oh yeah, he's back. Like a little lapdog. And it was so weird. And I just totally took him back. That only lasted for 2 months. And then he got mad at me again for no fucking reason, because I said, I basically wished him a happy new year in a text. And how dare I?
What? Because it was Easter, or?
No, it was, he had gotten dumped by his girlfriend and he was sad. And I sent him an upbeat Happy New Year text, and I was being disrespectful to his sadness.
Oh, I totally see that. Yeah, that makes total sense.
What an asshole I am. I'm such an asshole for doing that, right? And the first time he got mad at me and didn't speak to me for a year, it's because it was really cold out and he was wearing long pants, and I acknowledged it. I'm such an asshole.
Because he normally wears shorts.
Yeah, he's one of those shorts guys.
He's a shorts guy. I don't actually think I know any shorts guys. I mean, I don't live in the climate that's,
Yeah, you don't live down here. I mean, I'd known him for 12 years, and it was the first time I'd ever seen him in big boy pants.
Wow.
And I'd seen him in cold weather before, but it was just like, it was the first time. And I just kind of made a comment. And the thing is, I knew him well enough to know why he dressed the way he dressed. Because he's one of, like some people have like they're really
afraid of trousers,
like really physically sensitive to certain kinds of fabric, and they don't like things to be tight, and they want everything to be really loose and baggy and whatever. Part of the way he dressed, he wore clothes that were so enormous on him that he basically looked like a toddler, even though he was like 6'3".
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, I don't have any follow-up questions.
Not with that guy. It's sad. But the thing was that in a 2-month period, I went from immediately taking that guy back. And I'm so glad he's back in my life, and just being like moony-eyed and ridiculous. And then 2 months later, he just turns on me again. And I immediately go, oh, you know what? No, fuck you. And I just, I established very strong boundaries in writing. I gave him a copy in writing. That's how.
But was it signed by a notary?
I should have.
Was it official?
That would have been really good.
That's the thing that's really fascinating to me about myself with friendships. Like, I kind of get that friendships ebb and flow, right? And so, like, sometimes people kind of have enough of you and they don't really want to talk to you for a while, and then they do want to talk to you again. And sometimes there are really petty reasons, and sometimes you just kind of overlook it. But there's some people where I'm just like, no, you've burnt that bridge. No, let's not be friends ever again. And then there are some people who could just like constantly do those things, and I'm like, yeah, cool, let's go meet up for a drink. And I just like,
he's
why?
Just silly.
Like, and what is the reason? I just
and I hate
fascinating.
That with that guy. I hate to think of myself that I give him a pass because he was pretty.
Oh, but do you think that's what it is?
I don't want it to be. But God, it probably fucking factors in there somewhere. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because it's not going to be like one thing, is it? It's going to be like this combination of things.
Right.
But it's,
I
yeah,
mean,
just...
granted, if we didn't have like, a dozen years of awesome, great friendship and just hilarious and really good times and great conversations and, loving that guy. I mean, a weirdo, just a weirdo and a hard to fit. And yeah, he's going to have a hard time finding a girlfriend because he's so fucking weird, but he's going to be great. When he finally finds the one, he's going to be a great boyfriend to somebody. But if he wants to be a 50-year-old dressed like a toddler who throws a tantrum because someone says Happy New Year, fuck that guy. Wish him the best, whatever's going on with him. But, I don't talk to him anymore.
Are there some unresolved things here, Amelia?
Well, some of it is I have to keep reminding myself because I think I know that if he just suddenly showed up in front of me, there's this little part of me that probably would be like, oh, I'm so happy to see you. So I have to keep reminding myself, no, he's an asshole. He was very mean to you.
Oh, see, and I think this might be where it's different for me because I think potentially the reason that for some people I'm like, yeah, sure, let's be friends again, it's because I don't actually care that much about them. Like, I'm not like hurt when they disappear. I'm just like, oh, okay, they're not in my life at the moment. But there is some people that if they disappear, I'm like, oh my God, like this is a really bad thing. And then I want to punish them. So like when they come back, I'm like, no, I don't want to be your friend. And then like just completely burn that bridge. So maybe,
I mean, there's other people that they can come and go and I don't really fucking care. But like, but this one, there was a lot of raw nerves because of just the way things went, there's a lot of, oh my God, why did it hurt so bad? But it also, the first part happened, 6 months after my mother died. So I'm sure I was going through some shit already. And then he, knowing I was going through some shit, decided, oh, I'm just going to stop talking to her for a year.
But you'd still take him back.
I mean, there is this little part of me that still is like, I'm sympathetic to what a crazy fucked up piece of crap he is. I don't know.
Okay.
But he is cute.
No, that is not the moral of this story.
Bad. Bad Amelia.
So what else is there to talk about with the crossing?
I was trying to think of, Pitney definitely had more skeezy, memories of there, but because there was always a lot of strippers, and that was the place where I realized where if there were strippers, like if someone was bringing in like professional strippers into a gay bar, the likelihood was that those strippers were straight, because if you had gay strippers in a gay bar, there was like some liability going potentially, because like whoever was managing them might not have the ability to keep an eye on them. And they might go off and go in the bathroom and make some extra money on the side or something.
How is that a liability?
I think this was a long time ago. But that was one of the weird things that I definitely experienced in there, because there was always like just maybe a handful of women in there. And when it would be, stripper night, usually if there's a guy stripping, I just find it funny. I usually do not find it attractive. It's comical at best. Like, I talk to Pitney he'll talk about like a really good looking dick. And I'm like, I don't get really excited about. Like sometimes I don't like maybe I'm not as into guys. Maybe I'm not as into guys as he is. I don't know. It's like it has to be attached to a person. And I don't want to look at it.
Okay,
I have no desire to look at it.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you don't appreciate a good-looking dick, but can you spot a really terribly ugly dick?
Oh, I've seen. Yeah, there's
So it's not like you've got penis blindness, like face blindness.
No, I can certainly see it, but like it doesn't need to look a certain way. Like I dated a guy who he really should have been in porn. Like, it was like, get that thing away from me. It was enormous. It was like the size of my arm. It was ridiculous. And I only dated him for a very short time. We didn't even do all that much because part of me was like...
Terrified.
Yeah. It was certainly nice to look at, but it was also kind of pointless because it was like I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. He was one of those rare guys that like, yeah, he should just be naked all the time. I mean,
you're just contradicting yourself.
But it's very rare. It's very
okay. So every now and then you're like, yeah, that's a good dick, but most of the time you're like, meh, could take or leave it.
But the thing is that I also wasn't with him for a long time. Like, I mean,
you weren't dignitized, is what you're trying to say.
No. I mean, it wasn't worth keeping around.
Well, yeah, it should never be the primary thing. But like, if it's a good one, and you're like, yeah, like that, that's a nice.
But I also didn't have much use for it. Like it didn't.
You've heard of poppers, right?
Part of me was like, oh, I'm sorry. You want to put what where? I mean, part of me was kind of. Oh, look how small my hands look. I mean, it was very strange. But like when a stripper, I mean, there's something so funny about a stripper because the flaccid bouncing dick dance that strippers do is so funny to me. And they're doing the acting of the being turned on, but clearly they can't really be turned on because we can all tell you're not. And they're in a room full of guys and they're not into that. But they'll spot the one woman in the room and they have to pretend they're not looking at her or whatever. But there were two main strippers that I remember from there. Well, apart from just like this one homeless dude that every time this guy, he went by the name Wildfire and he was like this kind of stoner, this like homeless stoner dude. And that guy would always win because everyone was just he was so pathetic and weird, and we were just like, yay! We loved him. He was so like, oh, give him all the beers. But there was this one guy who would just try to get my attention so hard. And one night I was at one of the back bars, and he was on like one of the go-go platforms kind of a situation. And he thought it would be cute to, with one foot on the go-go platform and the other one on the bar, so that he's like, his dick is like near my face. I'm like, yeah, really? I'm talking to my friend here. Like, he's like he gets between me and my friend. He starts like trying to pulling the front of his G-string out. Like, I'm going to look down there. And I just reached into my glass and took out several ice cubes. And I just dropped them right down the front of his G-string. It's like, yeah, that's what you're getting. Cool off. Get away from me. What the hell are you doing?
I've been in bars where there's been straight strippers and a predominantly gay audience. And it's so weird. Like, you agreed to this gig. Like, you knew what you were doing. You knew you were coming to strip in a gay bar. Like, can't you just kind of flirt with the men here? Why are you zoning in on the women and trying to be like super hetero? Because like that just kills the fantasy. That like there is no fantasy. I just don't get the mindset. Like why do you have to prove your heterosexuality here of all places?
Yeah. And there was the other stripper that I have fond memories of. He at least had the decency. I mean, he went to the trouble of acting very well and being flirtatious and whatever, but then he would just sort of like walk past me and whisper something in my ear and then go up and get on the thing and dance for a while, and then he'd come over and say something to me and go back. And one night when we decided that, oh well, we're gonna leave together, but we weren't gonna leave together because he was like, no, I'm gonna walk out and I want you to walk out like a couple minutes after because I don't want them to see you walk out with me. He's like, because, I'm working. And I was just like, yeah, that's totally fine. And then I walked out and he was actually outside. And he had his car parked across the street at the liquor store in the parking lot across the street. Now, of course, we didn't go anywhere. I just like gave him a blowjob in his car in the parking lot of a liquor store across the street from the crossing. But
romance.
I know. But it was, l'amour. But he was very pretty. I mean, for me to just give someone a blowjob, which that's generally, if that's all that's going to happen, they'd have to be pretty fucking pretty. Because that's generally not, if that's all that's going to happen, I'll pass. But
But hang on. You're not like negotiating beforehand. Like, so what's happening now? Oh no, I'm not interested. Bye.
I think I probably thought that we were gonna go somewhere.
Oh
you
no.
know.
Oh, this is turning into a sad story now.
No, it was a good one. No, that was a good one.
But
It was a good one. He was very pretty.
Yeah.
I wasn't going there thinking I was picking up a guy. It was the crossing.
Okay.
That was the bar I was going to be amused by, toothless hobos and whatever. It's like I love that place.
And so, like, do you remember then hearing about it closing? Were you still going to the place then, or had you stopped going?
It shut down sort of briefly, and then it reopened with the same owners. One of the owners, their initials were DJ, and it reopened as DJs. And I went back when it was DJs, and it was like they put neon up, and it was like they tried to clean it up a bit, and the vibe wasn't quite the same. But some of that was like the bars around it changed a little bit too, and so I think that kind of changed, like the block changed somewhat. And by that time, it wasn't the same.
Isn't it fascinating that can happen? Like a lick of paint, change of name, one little thing changing, and suddenly it's like, oh, this isn't fun anymore.
It's like they tried to get a little bit more respectable, and
you were like, I'm
just
out.
Kind of, yeah. And it's weird how if it had been a straight bar that was that level of skeezy, I would never have been comfortable there. I would have thought it was disgusting. But because it was a gay bar, I was totally fine. It was exactly where I wanted to be. But it is really, really strange how I'll look online and I'll look to see what the local clubs are now. And I don't know if it's just because I'm an old fart, or it's like they don't look like I would have wanted to go there. It's not that I don't want to go there now, because I don't want to go anywhere now. I just want to go to bed. I just want to, I want to watch Law and Order and go to bed. But I don't think I would have wanted to go there then. Like everything's too shiny and sterile now. I think everything is too nice. Nothing's trashy enough anymore. The right kind of trashy. Or it's contrived trashy, maybe.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain amount of that out there that's just like nailing some license plates on the wall doesn't make you edgy. It's like, I don't know what you think you're doing. It's like, these things have to come, naturally. They have to happen organically.
Well, it's kind of like the cost of everything is so high now that the only people that can get into the bar business or get into these types of, like, open a shop are people with lots of money and a business plan and an idea, and they're not just winging it. They're not just like, oh yeah, I'll sign this lease and then see what happens.
Oh yeah. That's got to be a big part of it here, because Austin is like a city for millionaires now. It's so strange. We have the reputation of being, like the whole keep Austin weird. It's like we're the city of weirdos. Weirdos used to be artists and musicians, and artists and musicians could live here because it used to be affordable, and you could be broke and live here. And now you would have to be like 10 people renting an efficiency apartment. I don't know how anyone affords to live anywhere in this city. I mean, you can't afford to be an artist anymore. You can't afford to be a student. I don't know how anybody does it.
Yeah, and so that infects everything, doesn't it? Like, you've got places that sell bubble tea for $15. I don't know why I brought up bubble tea. Sorry, it's just like,
oh yeah.
Let's hate on that.
Oh yeah.
And your nightlife needs to be shiny and exciting so that they can charge lots of money to drink there. But it also just means that personality and that uniqueness gets lost.
Yeah.
So let's not leave it on that note.
No, let's not.
I wanted to ask, what did the crossing teach you about yourself?
Oh, wow. Now that was not a question I anticipated. Because I was at an age where I was definitely figuring out how to be comfortable in my skin. I think because I was such an awkward teenager that as I went into my 20s, like once I moved out of my parents' house and, got out of school and I was just sort of figuring out who the hell I actually was, and I had to be in a place where I was comfortable enough to just, well, let's see. What if I dress like this tonight? How do I feel? Like I couldn't try on different ideas of who I was easily in other places, but at the crossing, I think I could kind of play around with, because this was like this was like before the club kid idea in the 90s and like people going really, really extreme club wear kind of things. And this was like right before all of that. And I had started sort of coming up with going out outfits and coming up with what is my style. And Pitney was always very like, he had a pair of little hot pants that he bought in like the little girls department at Ross that he would wear in like a little mesh crop top and like, little fishnet stockings or whatever and Doc Martens, and he would go out like that. And so it's like, well, if he's going to dress like that, then I have to come up with something. I can't just wear jeans and a t-shirt. I have to come up with something. And so I think I felt like a freedom to just, who am I going to be this time? And kind of feel around the edges of who I was and kind of figure out how comfortable I could be in a place. And I don't know what it says about me that a place that was that trashy, like a place had to be that scummy for me to feel that comfortable. But I think nobody in that place was going to be judgy of me. And I think that was the number one thing. I needed to find a place where I wasn't going to feel like, oh my God, those people are looking at me. I have to get out of here. That was such a novel sensation to not feel like, oh my God, someone's looking at me. And I think that was a big thing for me.
Do you have any memories of The Crossing or clubbing from your own queer scene that you want to share? Well, if you do, please get in touch. I want to create the biggest online record of people's memories and stories of queer nightlife. Go to lostspacespodcast.com and find the section Share a Lost Space and tell me all about what you got up to. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as Lost Spaces Pod. Make sure you listen and follow Pitney and Amelia's Bitchen Boutique wherever you find podcasts, and also follow them on Twitter, where their handle is Bitchen Boutique, and Instagram, where it's Pitney and Amelia. Lost Spaces is not only a podcast, but a concept record as well. I have been writing songs about queer venues and the people who used to live their lives there, and will be releasing songs over the coming year. You can hear the first single, Well Grown Boys, which is playing underneath my talking right now on all good streaming platforms. If you liked this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on your podcast platform of choice, or just told someone who you think might be interested in giving it a little listen too. I am Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.